Okay, so I guess since we're all here, I guess we can begin then. So hello, my name is Christian Mortaliti, and I'm joined now by my colleague Carbon Chi and an amazing panel of speakers. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us on YouTube Live and in this meeting. And we hope that you are having a good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you may be in the world today. So this webinar is the first in a series of webinars covering sustainable business practices. And, you know, the private sector, for all the good it has done to advance development, prosperity, and technological achievement, has also been a leading cause in many, adverse social and environmental externalities such as pollution and income inequality. But, with the energy, innovation, and unique advantages that the private sector brings, and through market forces, they're in a great position to turn 180 degrees and correct these issues. So this webinar will cover social business and social entrepreneurship, its role in advancing sustainable development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and that was set by the United Nations, and the opportunities for youth in this field. So after this introduction, we will hear from 5 amazing guest speakers that represent social enterprises and organizations that are supporting the development of youth social business and entrepreneurship. After this, there will be a question and answer session. So all participants can leave their questions in the chat box at any time, and we will answer them during the Q&A. So speaking today, we will have Jack Hartpence, who is the co-founder and CEO of Powwater. So Jack is an internationally recognized thought leader on water strategy, social business, and innovation. In 2019, he was featured as a panelist on youth technology and social entrepreneurship at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Powwater works in close partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, YY Ventures, UNICEF, and Silicon Couloir. Powwater has brought sustainable clean water to over 80,000 people across Africa and South Asia. Next, we will have Agnes, Vinblad, and Mayra Bravo from the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth. And I want to give them a special thanks for joining us today from the United States, since it is an exceptionally early hour in the morning for them. So again, a big thanks for being here today. Agnes is a project officer working with the SDSN Youth Solutions Hub, which is a startup hub specializing in social entrepreneurship, focusing on realizing the SDGs. She has previous experience in numerous NGOs and international organizations, such as the Women's Global Leadership Initiative and the United Nations. Agnes holds a BSc in Business Management from Long Island University, CW Post. Earlier in 2020, Agnes was listed as a top 33 under 33 sustainability talent in Sweden. Mayra, on the other hand, is a project lead for the solutions program of SDSN Youth, where she manages a portfolio of initiatives such as the Youth Solutions Report, Youth Solutions Hub, and the Investment Readiness Program. Mayra is also the co-founder of Abitu, a recently launched startup that sells vitamins and promotes a sustainable lifestyle and overall wellness. Previously, Mayra has worked at the Permanent Mission of Mexico to the United Nations and as an advisor on the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. So Mayra holds a master's degree in sustainability management from Columbia University. Next, we will be joined by Alex Wang, who is the founder and secretary general of Youthink Center in China, which is one of the leading Chinese youth think and do tanks focusing on global challenges and opportunities. Alex is the first Chinese to be nominated to the board of directors in the United Nations Major Group on Children and Youth, and now serves on the board of directors in the Beijing Sustainable Education Association, which is the official secretariat of UNESCO China Education on Sustainable Development, sorry. He is also the executive director of the Global Committee on Social Business for the Sustainable Development Goals, which is chaired by Nobel Peace Laureate and UN SDG advocate, alumni Professor Muhammad Yunus. Alex also led the organizing committee of United Nations General Assembly high-level event on social business, youth, and technology. Alex holds a Master's of Social Enterprise from Peking University and a Bachelor of Management from Renmin University. Last but certainly not least, we will be joined by Galang Prakasa Yusuf Putra, who is the founder and director of Energi Karya Indonesia, which is a social enterprise focusing on empowering youth in the environmental sector. Currently, he is a student of environmental engineering at Universitas Indonesia, where he is also active in the student executive board. Next, we will have the honor of introducing Dr. Faiz Shah, who is the director of the Yunus Center at the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. So Dr. Shah will be contributing a short intervention following the panel. And with decades of experience as an innovator, leader, and educator, Dr. Shah leads innovation-centered initiatives, including the Yunus Center at AIT, the SDG Lab, and the Analytics Academy. In addition, he leads the Yunus Global Masters in Social Business and Entrepreneurship at AIT. So, to those unfamiliar, just to cover the basics, a social business is a class of social enterprise that utilizes a business model designed around addressing a social problem rather than seeking profit. They are financially self-sustaining and reinvest profit back into business with the aim of increasing the social impact. As such, they are able to utilize the private sector to sustain and amplify their impact, as opposed to charities or NGOs that often rely on one-off donations. Social enterprises more broadly can encompass any corporations or organizations with social goals embedded into their objectives. But one defining characteristic of a social business within this family is that owners generally do not make profit beyond the initial investment, but that's not set in stone exactly. So a social entrepreneur, on the other hand, is an individual who develops funds and or implements solutions to important social and or environmental issues. Often they pursue novel applications and are willing to take risk to create positive change. Social entrepreneurship is a growing trend alongside socially responsible investing and corporate social responsibility. At the same time, close to 20% of the world population is aged 15 to 24 years old. So, youth utilizing their energy, motivation, and new ideas play an important role in this emerging trend. And as the inheritors of the future and often being more sensitive to, the critical issues of today, youth can help keep social businesses and social entrepreneurship growing strong, which is also one of the themes of this webinar. And, similar to the case of poor or other marginalized groups, youth can become actors in this field with the proper support, mentorship, incubation, and funding. So, how does this all contribute to the 17th Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs? So, first off, if you're unfamiliar, the SDGs are a collection of 17 thematic and cross-cutting development goals containing 169 targets that were set by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015. The goals are set to be met by the year 2030. And within each SDG are aspects of the 3 dimensions of sustainable development, which are the environmental, economic, and social dimensions. And together, the SDGs seek to bridge a balance between these 3 dimensions. The SDGs recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations have to go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all the while replenishing the natural endowment, tackling climate change, and working to preserve, the world's oceans and forests. All countries are more or less obliged to implement the SDGs. However, it's not just for national governments. I mean, the SDGs are for everyone. Individuals, NGOs, academia, and the private sector are all agents of the SDGs. It is a collective responsibility, and stakeholder engagement is a priority of the SDGs. And in the context of this webinar, the private sector cuts across, several of the UN major groups and other stakeholders, such as business and industry, children and youth, and the scientific and technological community. However, 5 years in, many progress reports show that we are behind on meeting the SDGs, including in critical fields such as climate action. Furthermore, the COVID-19 pandemic has shifted focus from the SDGs, aggravated existing inequalities, led to critical shortages of food and other essentials, curtailed education, stalled economic growth, taken lives, and reduced, in some cases, years of progress on poverty reduction, all of which make social enterprises more important today than perhaps ever. So because of their solutions-oriented work, dedicated to positive change, social businesses and social entrepreneurs contribute to the achievement of almost all the SDGs in one way or another. For example, they can create jobs, therefore reducing poverty, SDG 1, and advance decent work, which is SDG 8. They could also advance innovation, SDG 9, or target women or other marginalized groups in their impact and or operations, covering SDGs 5 on gender equality and 10 on reduced inequality. They can provide food, health, water, or energy services, which are SDGs 2, 3, 6, and 7 respectively. In addition, they can leverage their change-making skills through collaborative exchange, covering SDG 17 on partnerships, which is also one of the aims of this webinar. Meanwhile, environmental SDGs such as 12, 13, 14, and 15 all carry great social impacts and consequences that can be addressed as well by social business and social entrepreneurship. So, with that all being said, I think you've heard enough from me, and I would like to pass it now to our first speaker, Mr. Jack Hartpence. So I will transfer you the role of host so that you can share your screen if you have a presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christian. And thank you so much for having me on. We're thrilled to join you and thrilled to join such an amazing group of speakers today. So I'm going to be speaking to you about Powwater today. I am live from Mombasa, Kenya, where we are working on the Powwater app. So a bit on the Powwater app. What we're building is a mobile marketplace for water. So think Airbnb, but think Uber for the private water market. And where we see tremendous opportunity in this market is by building a neural network around water so that we can understand the data of how water is moving in these emerging market economies, and then use that data to ultimately make a strategic impact over time, as well as increasing our margin to scale into new markets. So we've been backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for this initiative via their Global Challenges grant. So we're thrilled to be working with them on this project. A bit on Powwater. One thing that basically we came into this problem investing into water social businesses over the last few years as a water social business ourselves. We sold drinkware and reinvested the proceeds into water entrepreneurs throughout East Africa and South Asia. So to date, we've been able to bring sustainable, safe drinking water to over 80,000 people. And how we came into this problem is ultimately this. We had been investing and co-investing in projects alongside Nobel Peace Laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus. And we invested into a company called Shashir Water. And it was an infrastructure build where we ultimately looked to expand the bottling capabilities of Shashir so that they could provide more consumers in Mymensingh, Bangladesh, where they operated, with safe, affordable drinking water. The problem was this, is that they were having a tough time scaling their operation. And what we recognized was the reason for that is that the consumers had no access to transparency around water quality. And if there's no access to transparency around water quality, cost of water, and timing of delivery, for a high quality vendor like Shashir Water, it's tough to expand your market share. And so what we recognized was that the best way to help Shashir Water grow is to build a mobile marketplace focused on transparency so that consumers are empowered to make informed decisions and make this market a better market over time. And so that's what I'm going to be speaking with you a little bit about today. So what is the problem that we see in a macro lens? The problem is ultimately this. Through climate change and rapid urbanization, emerging market economies have more pressure on their water infrastructure now than ever before. And so if you think about it, it's ultimately like a vacuum effect. As more and more people are drawing water from the groundwater aquifer, a vacuum is created in the aquifer, and then contaminated surface water is coming back into the groundwater supply. That water is contaminated in one of three ways, either through industrial contamination, which is where we see heavy metallics in areas like India and Bangladesh. It's where arsenic pollution is ripe. Two is wastewater mismanagement, which is oftentimes where we see cholera and typhoid and things of that nature. And then tertiary, in an area like Mombasa, what we see is saltwater intrusion into the groundwater table. So salt water is actually coming from the ocean, and then it's filling into these once freshwater aquifers, making drinking water that maybe was once, okay to drink, now increasingly brackish. It's not just a problem in the groundwater aquifer. It's also a problem with pipes. And that's because reticulated piped water infrastructure is failing in emerging markets today. And that's because pipes are leaky. So that same type of contamination that's happening into the groundwater aquifer is also happening into the pipes, and then thus into someone's home. And that's why for many consumers that even have piped water in Africa or South Asia, they're unable to drink the water out of the tap because during the piping process, this water is becoming contaminated. So what's happened is there's a very large fragmented private water market that's come in to fill this vacuum, fill this gap that's been created by these problems I've just identified. And that market has no transparency and no incentive for accountability. And that's what we're looking to address. So it should come as no surprise that water is one of the largest commodities on Earth today. And as the water crisis perpetuates, of course, the cost of water will increase dramatically. In many areas of the world, it already has. Today, 2/3 of urban residents in Africa do not have piped water in their homes, and that's actually a growing trend. So a bit more, that's the macro of the problem, but now I'm gonna dive down into the micro of the problem. Ultimately, it's a transparency gap and an information gap. And so consumers who are desperate for water, they have no real-time information around cost of water and different competitors that exist and what their cost is per, say, 20 liters or 10 liters. How they're doing ordering right now is typically through a phone call or picking it up in person. Consumers are waiting on average 6 to 9 hours a week for water in the private water market. There's a tremendous amount of dead time in the market, and that dead time, the burden is really on women who are responsible for purchasing water for their family. And so this dead time is a tremendous amount of lost opportunity costs. And one way that we really see to streamline that is just by giving consumers knowledge around when is the water going to be delivered, reduces that burden, and then increases their ability to go on and do other things. So that's kind of a gender equality play that we really see here. The most important for us is water quality. So water quality is changing dramatically from week to week, from day to day, and consumers have no ability to see what is a vendor's water quality in real time. And so by solving for that need, what we're able to do is propel high quality vendors with high quality drinking water to basically gain in market share in this economy. And that's huge for us because obviously water, it's the foundation for quality of life on Earth today. With access to sustainable, safe drinking water, all data shows that you can move on to other SDGs like education, gender equality, economic opportunity. But without sustainable access to safe drinking water, there's a direct correlation to not being able to move on to those secondary and tertiary quality of life indicators. Now, this isn't just a problem on the consumer side of the market. There's also some big problems on the vendor side of the market. Right now, the main ones are that there's no logistics management or delivery route optimization. Orders are received by phone call. And so as orders come in, there's no way for existing vendors to optimize their query and optimize their routes. And so they have a tremendous amount of dead time that exists in the market as well, which we're basically streamlining and optimizing. So our solution is we're building a mobile app, and that's what brings our team here in Mombasa. And just a couple key features I'll touch on. One is user reviews. So let's say, Christian, you just ordered water from a vendor. You now have the ability to rate the quality of delivery 1 through 5 stars. You now have the ability to rate the quality of water 1 through 5 stars. We're then able to aggregate that data so that this market is getting smarter over time. Now, when it comes to water quality, we can't rely solely on user reviews. It's too important. So we'll also be conducting randomized ad hoc testing of all of our vendors. And what actually brought us to Mombasa is that we had a tremendous relationship with a vendor partner here who has real-time water quality monitoring hardware in his tank so that we can relay a direct parts per million read to the end consumer and an API on the app. Hey, this is the exact water quality in this minute. GPS tracking, estimated time of arrivals on the vendor side, GPS tracking, taking more efficient routes. On the consumer side, as I mentioned earlier, it's having knowledge of when is the water going to be here, that estimated time of arrival, and reducing that burden and dead time. Lastly, one of our key indicators that brought us to Kenda was secure payments. Our team originally vetted and researched Bangalore, India. Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune have some of the largest water markets in the world today. Southern India is basically a high desert. The problem that we found is that water was moving with cash. We didn't want to change consumer behavior from paying with water with cash to now paying for water digitally. That could be a startup in itself. So we wanted to look to a market that already was paying for water digitally. In East Africa and in Kenya in particular today, there is the highest rate of mobile banking in the world through M-Pesa. And so consumers are already paying for water digitally. And so we really felt firmly that Kenya was our path of least resistance. So how does this work, to take a step back? We onboard suppliers, kiosks, ATMs, existing distributors. All vendors are vetted and verified for quality. Then many of these vendors have delivery drivers on staff. They might have 1 to 3 drivers that are already moving their water from the filtration site to the end user. As I mentioned earlier, we'll optimize their logistics. But where we've also identified low-hanging fruit is in the ride-sharing economy. There's already so many drivers that exist. They might be driving a tuk-tuk, a boda, which is a motorbike in Africa, or even a car, and they're moving goods from point A to point B or moving people from point A to point B. Largely speaking, the constraint on the supplier is not being able to produce high quality filtered water. They have the ability to produce the quantity of water. Their problem is, and their chief constraint is in delivery. They're handheld by the number of drivers they have. And so what we've identified is by working with incumbent rideshare drivers, we're ultimately able to expand their presence into the market and expand their reach in a way that's never been done before. For our pilot, we're really focusing on the middle class, and that's because it's the path of least resistance. They have the propensity to pay. They're already ordering water to their doorstep. And what we're trying to do is show a successful proof of concept. We're also looking at running a parallel pilot in a rural village to show what can be done in the base of the pyramid with USSD codes. The prolific usage of smartphone isn't really there as much in rural Africa as it is in urban Africa. And so we're running a parallel pilot to show what can be done with the base of the pyramid. We're an impact company, as Christian mentioned, and so that's, of course, something that's very important to us. You know, a lot of people don't understand the level of tech renaissance that exists in Africa today. When we look at what markets are going to grow in the future over the next 10, 15 years, the most economically, we would put sub-Saharan Africa at the top of that list. Kenya has a 91% penetration of mobile subscriptions. And of course, with 4G and 5G expanding, what we're seeing is that this continent, and Kenya in particular, is ripe for technological solutions. And that's why organizations like the United Nations, organizations like the Gates Foundation, everyone is looking at East Africa for where technology in emerging markets is getting piloted and then rolled out to the rest of the world. So what's our go-to-market strategy? It's promotional marketing. If you think about when Uber came out, you had the ability to get a Uber ride that was free for the first one. Same with Airbnb. Your first stay might have been 40% off. Then you had the ability to send a code to maybe 5 friends. And if one of them converted to a customer, you were incentivized to do that by getting, say, 25% off your next order. That's targeted grassroots digital marketing. That's highly effective when you're trying to grow a marketplace. So that's what our team is raising capital for right now, because we want to be able to work through people's social channels in a targeted way that they're incentivized to send, Christian's incentivized to send the code to Carbon, who he thinks will be a user, versus trying to grow in a more organic, non-targeted manner. We believe firmly this is the path to growth. Why Mombasa? Climate change. Mombasa is the textbook example of what happens when you don't manage your water infrastructure adequately. And as you have rapid urbanization and saltwater intrusion into the groundwater table, which ultimately is not even the fault of the public water utility as much as it is the reality of what's happening in these coastal regions throughout South Asia and throughout Africa. And so in the last 10 years, the public water utilities reach through piped water to people's homes has decreased by 29%. As the public utility has lost market share, the private water market here has thrived. There's over 1,500 vendors today in Mombasa selling drinking water licensed by the Kenya Revenue Authority. There's probably at least another 1,000 that are not licensed by the Kenya Revenue Authority. It's an incredibly fragmented market. I mentioned the accommodating regulatory environment and the high level of mobile payments a moment ago. And then lastly speaking is the fact that we had the right relationships with vendors here. It was a market that we were very familiar with, and we felt firmly this was the best place to begin a pilot. Impact, we're an impact business. And so when you empower consumers to make informed decisions around water quality, cost, and timing of delivery, what you also do is you create tremendous positive ripple effects that go through people's communities. So just a few. One, Christian mentioned SDG 11, creating a more flexible and resilient water infrastructure, right? That is the sustainable type of city we need for tomorrow. As I mentioned, reticulated piped water infrastructure is failing globally. We need a new way to move high quality potable drinking water in a cost affordable manner. We believe firmly that this solution is that. We also believe that the data we're collecting will allow for us to advise organizations like the World Bank, like the UN, like many of these multilateral players with such a commitment to SDG 6 on where the best place to do that is within these communities. It's very important. And with gender equality, as I mentioned earlier, women are the ones that ultimately have this burden. That's not right. We want to empower women. We want to create transparency in this market through estimated time of arrivals. And I know I'm running out of time here, 2 minutes left. Just a quick bit on our team. We believe firmly we're the right team at the right time to get this done. Alec Bernstein and Dr. Casey Brown, our co-founders, are worldwide water experts. Dr. Brown went to Harvard and got his PhD in hydrology. They've been advising the World Bank and multilateral organizations on water strategy for the last 20 years. And so they really serve as our water experts on this role. Another one of my co-founders is Ellie O'Neill. She spent her career in finance at JP Morgan. She runs our strategy, ops, and financials. And I really serve as chief messaging officer. So I'm getting out there, I'm driving strategic partnerships, and I'm having conversations like this, hoping that we can find people that are interested in our work. Tazeen Shadid and YY Ventures, Professor Yunus's incubator out of Bangladesh, they're our software partner. So Tazeen spent the last 10 years at Microsoft. He won Microsoft Leader of the Year in 2018. And they basically have a team of 20 that's designing and creating our product in conjunction with our local Kenyan team on the ground. We're backed by the Gates Foundation. We've been through the World Food Program's incubator in Munich, and we work closely with YY Ventures. So thank you so much for having me on. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is just jack, J-A-C-K, @powwater.com, and I'd love to connect with you offline, and I'll even put it in the chat for you.
Thank you very much, Jack. That was excellent, very, very informative, very educational, interesting presentation. And I really like how you guys have looked at the problem very sharply, but not just at the problem, but also at the advantages of the work area in Kenya and East Africa. I found that very interesting. And how you touched upon, water as an essential resource, but it's also a gateway to, other quality of life issues, an essential gateway to these quality of life issues, and how you've used, technology and, also taking a partnership approach. I find these all to be very, interesting and inspirational points. So thank you very much. So our next speakers are Agnes and Mayra from SDSN Youth. And if we could share your screen. So will Agnes be sharing her screen, or Mayra?
Agnes will be the one sharing the screen.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, let me see. So thank you guys again very much for joining us at this ungodly hour of the night. It's truly a pleasure, and I very much appreciate it. So let me see if I could just get you. Jack, will you be able to transfer the role of host to Agnes?
Sure.
So there's a little limitation on our Zoom account. We can only have one host.
Tristan, you mind just reminding me how to do that? I'm on more.
Yeah, sure
right
thing.
now.
So if you go to participants,
sure.
And then you click on Agnes, and then you can click more, and then make host.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry about that.
No problem. The role is transferred.
Thank
the
you.
baton has been passed. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you very much for having us. I know that I speak for both Mayra and myself when I say that we are very happy to be with you today. Despite the hour that we're having right now here in the US, it's quite early, but we're very happy to be here. And we're very excited to tell you about SDSN Youth, the work that we do. And we're also going to talk about social entrepreneurship at large and what really constitutes a successful social entrepreneur. So let's get to it. First, I
think that we're having a little bit of audio problem.
We have the Youth Solutions Hub, the Youth Solutions Report, and the Investment Readiness Program. All these three pillars constitutes the Solutions Program. Mayra is the project lead of the Solutions Program, and she works with all three of these different aspects that we're offering. Meanwhile, I myself am a product officer focused on the Youth Solutions Hub. The Youth Solutions Hub is a global network that connects roughly 400 entrepreneurs from all over the world. And yeah, they get to share ideas with each other, and they get to connect with experts within different industries. And it's really like a virtual startup hub. Then we have the Youth Solutions Report, which is a report that is released annually, and it features the 50 top social innovators across the world. And these are youth innovators, which is incredibly inspiring. And then our final pillar of the Solutions Program is the Investment Readiness Program, which is where we actually teach these 50 selected entrepreneurs that are featured in the Youth Solutions Report. We take them and we teach them how to pitch their solutions and how to be investment ready and to be able to really show their best foot forward when they are in front of venture capitalists, and how to really accelerate their solutions to create the most possible impact.
So what is social entrepreneurship? That is something that we often get asked and that people are often curious about, because this is not like a regular entrepreneurship where you have a product and you're probably going for profit. Here you also put in the social aspect of the fabric. So taking a quote from one of my favorite authors, from a book that has really been helpful throughout the entrepreneurship journey from 0 to 1. Social entrepreneurship is defined by doing something different that's truly good for society and realizing that the best problems to work on are often the ones nobody else even tries to solve. So there's definitely this uniqueness factor to social entrepreneurship. And I think that more and more we're starting to see different ideas and different conversations going on around this topic, especially now during the age of COVID-19, where so many businesses had to pivot the way of operating.
And just looking at social entrepreneurship and how you can make it attractive for investors. For better or for worse, we do live in a capitalist world and we have to adapt accordingly, even though as a social entrepreneur, your main focus always is impact. We care more about impact than we do profits, than we do monetary values, than we do finance. Impact and the social good that we're doing really goes before anything. And this is of course the case for every single young innovator within our network. However, one problem that all of our entrepreneurs and innovators seem to have in common is that they really struggle with financing their solutions. Just now, both Mayra and myself, we are coming out of the selection process for this year's Youth Solutions report. And I could easily say that the number one issue that our entrepreneurs are listing in their applications, their number one struggle that they're mentioning is lack of access to financing. So that's an issue that we really like to tackle and talk about a little bit. And just to kind of provide some tools and a framework on how to think about it, I have here, and you can see it in front of you, of course, how to build a business case for social impact. So how do you do that? How do you really define and put a monetary value on social impact? And it is actually really, really important that you're able to do so.
A little bit of audio problems. Yeah.
And it starts with defining your impact. So I'm using an example here that all these numbers are made up, but we will later on actually show you a real business case from one of our innovators that work within this field. So step one is defining your impact. So the example here is, okay, our startup uses 20 tons of plastic bottles per year to create our product. Now, in order to make that seem attractive to an investor, we need to put a monetary value on this. And one way of doing that could be to actually very detailedly research the effect that 20 tons of plastic bottles would have if they ended up in a landfill. So these 20 tons of plastic bottles would otherwise end up in a landfill. And on average, our local waterways here in our community, they flood due to plastic waste on average 3 times a year. And this translates into health and property damages that very often kind of is around $2.5 million. So that's a pretty powerful statement to be able to make, right? To really be able to say that, oh, this is the cost of this issue that we are solving. And that leads us then to step 3, which is pinpoint your unique value based on these factors. So by you investing in our startup, you're helping save
Agnes, I think that we lost you for a second there.
be better used and reinvested into our communities instead. So this model is just a very tangible way to actually prove that there is a monetary value to your impact. And it's easier to come with a qualitative and quantitative measure when you meet with an investor.
For example, one of our greatest solutions that we had for this year is Upcycle Africa. And they're building houses out of plastic bottles in Uganda. And the way that they showed the value proposition was that they had 600 tons of plastic waste going into landfills and causing up even more damage to the environment. So what this innovator did is that he transformed this waste crisis into really employment opportunities for marginalized group of people, especially giving priority to women and youth, and also teaching them how to turn the plastic waste into products of different value, and such like accessories, garments. But the main proposal was to start building houses because they are heat resistant, water resistant, and they prove to be a really solid material. I mean, they don't degrade for like 500 years, right? So the impact is that since they began in 2015, they've educated around 21,000, a little bit less than 21,000 students in 52 different schools. And through their Waste Pickers program, they've been able to recover plastic and ensure like safe and clean environment. And they've collected over 3 million plastic bottles, and over 100 tons of plastic has been sustainably repurposed, which is really, really amazing. And they're definitely pivoting their way they're doing business now, because instead of right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, they pivoted through an online learning program where they are remote teaching all of these students still on how to reuse these plastic bottles.
And another thing that we really want to touch upon is the importance of empowering women and the importance of having an intersectional mindset when you talk about social entrepreneurship. This is something that SDSN Youth cares about deeply, and actually in the upcoming Youth Solutions report, which will be released in December, we have a full chapter outlining this very context of the importance of women in social impact entrepreneurship specifically. So first off, if we had equally as many female entrepreneurs as we have male ones, it could actually raise the global GDP by between 2.5 trillion to $5 trillion. And this is really powerful to think about, because it really shows us that the whole world is missing out by not including women. Another very interesting factor to consider is that the more diversity you have as a business, the more innovative you're able to be. And this is really where the lens of intersectionality comes in. As a social impact entrepreneur, your absolute goal is to solve problems. It is to provide diverse perspectives and brand new solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. And in order to do so, you need to have diverse perspectives. And it's so important also to have representatives from the community that you are trying to help, to actually have them as a part of your organization and your leadership team. This is absolutely crucial to be able to make sure that you're actually solving the problem and that you're actually doing what is needed. Because sometimes we do have situations, if we look globally, of organizations that are coming into communities and potentially causing more harm than doing good. And in order to prevent that from happening, it is so important to attack every single social impact issue with an intersectional lens. Another thing I would really just like to highlight is that the future is looking really bright in terms of social entrepreneurship. Right now, we can see from a very recent report, is the 2020 United Nations World Youth Report, states that youth aged 18 to 24 are more likely to be social entrepreneurs than they are to be commercial entrepreneurs. And another exciting thing to realize about this is that the gender gap within social entrepreneurship is much narrower than it is within commercial entrepreneurship. And this can generally be attributed to the fact that women in general has a much deeper sense of concern for the well-being of our world, which yet again speaks to why it's so important for us to really focus on empowering women and women entrepreneurs in communities all over the world, because it will really be a multiplier effect.
No, and I think that it's super great that you mentioned that, Agnes, because I think that more and more young people are really passionate about what's going on in their community. And that's something that we really are seeing as a trend. And for example, we see that in the Solutions program, and we see that in the Youth Solutions Hub, how more and more people are turning towards the Solutions Hub for mentorship, partnerships, and also different support and to meet different people that are on the same mindset that they are. And also and we really utilize the mentorship aspect because as you can read, the success rate of mentored and small business compared to those without a mentor, it's 70%. And as an entrepreneur myself, I don't think that I would be where I am without the help of my mentors. It's really a challenging time to be, starting your own business and not really knowing where to go and not wanting to commit any mistakes because you're mostly working with limited capital. So we want to stress the importance of having this mentorship as a guidance to pivot and to grow up as a business, but more importantly, a socially responsible business. So, for example, for this, for the last part, we're thinking about 7 questions that every entrepreneur should ask themselves. And this is truly relatable to any entrepreneur, but we're thinking about socially entrepreneurs as well. First of all, what are you doing? What is your product? And how are you engineering it? Is it really innovative, or is it something that can be easily replicated? The second is the timing question. You really have to see where the time that you're launching your product. Is it a recession, for example, or is it a pandemic, for example? Personally, I just launched my business in August, so timing was also a little bit tricky, but you also need to look into that as well. The monopoly question. Monopoly is a good thing. Perhaps a little competition is also good, perhaps. So having a little bit of competition keeps you on your toes and makes you want and really keeps you improving your product and going on and trying on different innovative ways to stand out. So a little bit is good, too much, not that good. People question. This is super important, and we couldn't stress this enough, as we see it as well in the solutions team. There really has to be talent in the people that you hire and the people that you work with. There really has to be great communication. Distribution. So how does your supply chain look like? How are you going to bring your product to your client or to the community? This is also really, really important. And how long are you planning on staying on the market? How long does it look like for in 10, 20 years time? I think that most social innovators don't really think about this in the beginning, and it's probably because they don't even know if they're going to be afloat in 2 or 3 years. But I think it's really, really important to just visualize yourself being able to withstand the test of time and getting there. And finally, secret question. What's your secret? What's in the heart of your innovation? What are you doing that's different or that no one else has figured out yet?
So basically what we want to leave you with is, you want to be a social impact entrepreneur, figure out your secret, and you'll be
figure out your secret, you'll be able to log into this amazing world of youth solutions and youth innovation and entrepreneurship. And we want to thank you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, updating and posting cool stuff. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes and Mayra, for that wonderful presentation. I really liked your highlight on the intersectional mindsets, as well as the power of including women in social business and social entrepreneurship. And I also appreciated highlighting the bright future that this field has. And I think in during this pandemic, it's always nice to kind of look to the future and look to the bright aspects of life. And appreciate it as well, leaving us at these seven questions. And again, appreciate your time to join us. So our next speaker is Mr. Alex Wang from Youthink Center. So we will transfer now the role of host to Alex. So if he has a presentation to share.
Thanks very much, Christine. I'm going to share my screen and.
Okay. 1 second.
Okay, great, fantastic. Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm going to share some stories about Youthink, but I will talk about Youthink very quickly because I'm thinking that today we're talking about social business and the social entrepreneurship. Although Youthink is doing quite a lot in the field of social business and also promoting social entrepreneurship. But I mean, if we listen to Jack's story, the first presentation, we found that there are many cool social business, and they're doing many amazing work on the ground. But what we do is that we deeply believe the concept of social business, but Youthink Center itself is not a social business. We're trying to develop some cool social business now, but we haven't finished yet. So, but today, what I'm going to share is that what we are doing now, and I want to share more about the concept of social business and some stories. I'm also trying to share with you some amazing stories about Professor Yunus and some social business ideas. I think it may be more relevant to the topic. So Youthink Center is a youth-focused think and do tank focusing on global challenges and opportunities. So we have this kind of vision to build an ecosystem to engage every young people to learn, advocate, and take actions on different global topics, including SDGs, climate change, social entrepreneurship, and creating different innovative projects. As I said, that I will go very quickly, that currently we focus several key topics, but every year we have some new topics, including, for example, like for this year, we're also working with UN on UN 75 and also other topics. Here are some, okay, so here is our theory of change. We're not a social business, but as a think tank or as a non-profit, what we want to do is that how we can really make the change happen. So we believe that there are three key things. If we work with young people and we want to have a positive impact on young people and then empower them to be change makers. Number one, we think is actions. Everyone become change makers, like Jack, like all the friends from SDSN, and also all the solutions they select. Number two is that we need to build networks. All this, like what Christine is doing today, is we bring all these change makers together. We share with all these potential stakeholders. Number three is that we should have more stories. I believe that there are change maker stories. When we share change maker stories, we can average inspire others. So this is our theory of change since where we're beginning. And currently, because we have been, since we're beginning, we are a volunteer team. And then what we did is that we are running different projects. We're growing step by step. So far we do this as a platform or hub. Mostly we do many coordinations and communication on different projects. And definitely some of them are supporting social business or are supporting social entrepreneurs. Or some projects are related to advocacy. So, but we are building this platform to connect youth organizations, young people, the governments, foundations, and also medias to coordinate all the projects. Here are some public, some awards we get, but I don't go to the details. So basically, we get most of the awards from very important organizations, including UN, Asian Development Bank, in China, including People's Daily. We get many media features by our projects. So I want to, because it's mainly about the history, but so I don't go to the details. I just come out some project cases so you get better ideas of what Youthink Center is doing. But we are running different projects every year. So I just pick, so every year we have some projects, and then every year we have some new projects as well. So here are some projects I just showcased to give you a more concrete idea. In the field of climate change, we work with Christine in UN SDGs and also UN FCCC. What we want to do is that we want to get more young people be aware of climate change. We want to empower them to learn, advocate, and take actions on climate crisis. What we do is that we work with Chinese, there's a Chinese celebrity called Zheng Shuang. So we work with her and develop our campaign and bring her to the UN FCCC COP25, the UN Climate Change Conference. And we advocate the message that climate education should be the foundation of climate change. And we want to bring this message to the mainstream and advocate more schools include climate change education into their curriculum. This is the whole idea. So this is some result we bring. Now, I mean, maybe for Christine, it's also the first time I show the slides here, the numbers. But this is one of the big, hottest news that last year, and also one of the most impactful campaign in the climate change area in China. Like, I mean, bring the topic of climate education in the mainstream media. So in the 1 week, now I think it's about 1 billion browsers or clicks, and there are many discussions, and we get many requests. And it was #1 hot topic in Chinese Twitter called Weibo. We also get many different media reports, and also the UN colleagues also help us promote the China Daily, the China Global Television. So you see that this is our projects we manage is engaging. We want to advocate climate change and we want to make sure that young people pay attention to it. And the whole campaign, the keywords are young people, youth for climate, young people, the climate change, and how the general public know about the topic. So we manage the whole communication campaign. So this is a more on communication perspective. The second one is that it's more on network, how we build this networks. So this is an initiative we are working with Yunus Center, AIT. I saw Dr. Faiz is here today as well. And also Renmin University of China is one of the top universities in China, and also Youthink Center. What we do is that we want to, in the Belt Road initiative in BRI, there are many countries, there's many different organizations, think tanks, universities, social entrepreneurs are working on different development topics. We want to develop this development network, how to enhance the communication among all these stakeholders. So we developed this network to connect everyone. So you can see that we are launching the idea together with Professor Yunus in Social Business Day. Right after it's last year, we signed the MOU in Bangkok to officially launch it. And number 3 is projects on action. So we developed this fellowship together with Chengmei Charity Foundation in China. So since 2013, we select all these young change makers. We call them Think Big Fellows. We give them the same grants. We build the networks. And so we help them to incubating the projects and to get them connected. And then the most important thing is that everyone need to really do a project. So it's not idea competition, it's more about they need to start their action, and based on their action we have evaluation and all this. So this is a network now, is about 1,700 change makers who are working in different social innovation projects. So this is what we do, just showcasing, and this is all funders, and that's it. Okay, so maybe that I can use the other few minutes to share more stories about the topic today, the social business. And I believe that most of us know that Professor Yunus is known as the father of microcredit and social business. And and so what makes him famous is that he got his only entrepreneur who got Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 because his work in creating Grameen Bank. Personally, I was reading this news when I was in college, and you know, when and also there's many books about Professor Yunus, and I have the opportunity to visit Bangladesh and get to know, like on the ground, what is Grameen Bank. So maybe today I share with you a story. So Bangladesh, I'm not sure we have participants from Bangladesh, but I mean, I travel to many places, many countries in different continents. Bangladesh is definitely one of the poorest countries I visited, even including some countries in Africa, including Jackies in Kenya. But I think Bangladesh, especially the villages in Bangladesh, is extremely poor. When I talk with my Chinese colleagues, that's how Bangladesh villages looks like. I said that it's like 40 years ago in China, and then you bumped 3 times, like, and then, you know, like in some houses, they even don't have a roof. People don't have shoes to wear. So it's very, very hot in Bangladesh. So you can feel that when we drive the car 5 hours to go to because the first time I was there, I mean, I hear about the story of Grameen Bank for a long time. And then the first time I was there, I told my colleague that, okay, let's go to the poorest region. And so we drive the car to the village. It's not that far, but you know, they don't have the proper road. So we spent 5 hours in the car to reach the village. And then when we reached there, so we found that it's like, even after several decades, we can still feel that there is such a poor village. And then, so in Grameen Bank, they have this kind of center meeting or group meeting. So we joined the meeting, so we want to see that how the Grameen Bank staff give the loans to the Grameen Bank borrowers, because this is the most famous stories in many documentaries, right? And people always have questions. People always have questions, because you know that if you hear the news about Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel Prize, you feel that, wow, it's such a big thing. But sometimes, for most of people, we do like when they talk about Nobel Prize in physics or other category, maybe we don't understand because it's too academic or somehow. But if we talk about Peace Prize, everyone understand, right? So but when you understand, we want to judge whether they make a wrong decision. So this is like many others. Even I read many books about that. But even with all these knowledges, I still have. I mean, for me, I even raise some questions. I want to challenge them. So there is one lady I found that when we in the meeting, it's like one of those ladies, but they have the group meeting there, and they have the group meeting, and then this lady said that he has been Grameen Bank borrowers for more than 20 years, and then she's still joining the group meeting. So I was thinking that Grameen Bank is lifting people, like Grameen Bank's vision is to lift people out of poverty. So I asked a question to this lady that why 20 years, why you are still here? So the idea should be you borrow money and then you make money and then you become richer and richer. So you don't need to borrow money and you don't need to stay in Grameen Bank. So this is logic. I believe that some colleagues maybe ask the same questions, but I hear about many challenging questions like this. Why we give the, whether Grameen Bank is qualified to get Nobel Peace Prize. This lady become really, exciting. She told me that because Grameen Bank is my bank, and today I hear there is a guest from China. I want to introduce our bank to you. This is one of these ladies. They never went to school, and then she started to explain. Like 20 years ago, I don't have a house to live. We don't have food to eat. We get a small loan from Grameen Bank, and then step by step, we plant vegetables. We start to have our house, and step by step, and then I can send my kids to the schools. Now I have 2 kids. One is working in Dubai, the other one is working in Dhaka. And in my house, I have a car. And the lady would try to hold my hand, and then we visited to her house. Even it is still not that furniture house, but I mean, compared to the other houses we saw on the road, you can see that they have a good living compared to the conditions they have before. So you can feel the, people's ownership of the bank. You never see this in other, commercial banks. So I talked with Professor Yunus personally, and he told me that, in the very beginning, he developed the projects, but he want to give the projects to the commercial banks, but the commercial banks don't want to do that. So they think that they cannot make money from poor people, and poor people don't have credit because you somehow you want to borrow money, you have to get the guarantee. All these stuff you should have. But Professor Yunus said that if they don't have the first dollar, how can they make their second dollar? So we need to help them. So in the very beginning, Professor Yunus developed the concept of Grameen Bank. Anything commercial bank do in the city, he did opposite. So commercial banks open in the city, Grameen Bank open only in the villages. You need to go to the commercial banks to fill the forms and to deal with your banking service. Commercial bank staff want to go to your house. They ask you, we have this kind of service. Most of commercial banks borrowers are men. 90–70% of borrowers from Grameen Bank are women. And in commercial banks, if you cannot pay back the money, they want to take your house. They want to take out your guarantees, right? So they reduce the risk. In Grameen Bank, they give you the second loan to help you to do analysis why you lose money. And in the past 40 years, according to the UN reports, 1 billion people get benefit from this kind of model, microcredit. And the model of Grameen Bank was replicated in more than 100 countries. Only in Bangladesh, 8 million families' life get changed. It's from one academic projects in one village developed to the almost 20,000 villages in Bangladesh. So this is a story of what I see, what I feel in Bangladesh about the business of Grameen Bank. And then so Professor Yunus developed this, he think that the business is focused on making money, but social business will focus on solving the problem. And the older profits stay and to try to solve the problem. So based on this, he developed in his speech, getting Nobel Peace Prize, he introduced the concept of social business. So there is 7 principles of social business, which is, I believe most of people know. And the last one was do it with joy. When you listen to Jack's presentation, the first speaker, you can feel that all the social entrepreneurs has great passion on what they're doing. And they are really enjoying on that. When we are helping others, it is professors call it super happiness. There's also other principles, including the gender sensitive, environmental friendly, get the workforce, get the market wage, and investors only get their investment amount only. There's no dividends beyond the investment money. So this is the 7 principle of social business compared to the traditional business or traditional NGOs. So you can see that the position of social business is in the middle. So it's balancing the social impact and also balancing the business models. And so professionally developed this model from the Grameen Bank. Grameen Bank is just one social business model in finance sector. He developed that to other sectors, including working with all these leading companies. One example is Grameen Danone, and producing the yogurt to their poor families, but have the different nutritions for the kids. You can see that they're doing door-to-door sales. And there's more examples because we don't have enough time today, because each one, behind each logo, each one, there's many amazing stories, inspirational stories, and also many great people like Jack who are working behind the social business. So in the end, what I would share with you is that Professor Yunus taught us the power of social business. He said that a charity money dollar has only one life. A social business dollar invested over and over again has endless life. So we can see that through social business we can better contribute to the achievement of SDGs and also a better future. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks very much again, Christine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alex. For sharing about, your wide impacts in your work, the power of stories, your theory of change, and of course the centrality of, passion to social business. I think it's a big takeaway for me. So thank you again. Alex has been a very supportive and fantastic partner of our work. So thank you again, Alex, for joining. And next speaker we have is Mr. Galang from Energi Karya, Indonesia. So I think I will then make you the host. Do you have a presentation to share?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Are you able to share your screen?
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Okay, just a moment, please. Okay. Okay, can you see my slide, Christian?
Yeah, can see.
Oh, I can see. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening from Indonesia. Thank you for having me. I'm Galang Prakasa Putra from Energi Karya Indonesia. First, I want to thank the committee, the Sustainable Private Sector, for inviting Energi Karya Indonesia to discuss today. It's a great opportunity to be here with amazing speakers, Mr. Jack Hartpence from Powwater, Ms. Agnes Vinblad, and Ms. Mayra from SDSN Youth, Mr. Alex Wang from Youthink Center, Mr. Faiz from Yunus Center AIT. I also learned many lessons from their presentation before and got new perspective and best practices about social entrepreneurship. I hope Energi Karya Indonesia can collaborate with them. Okay. Before we get into the discussion material, I would like to first introduce about Energi Karya Indonesia. What are our program and goals? We just established in 2019. Energi Karya. Energi means passion and spirit. Karya means something that is made. We want to create programs that encourage young people to be passionate about creating something and work together. Energi Karya Indonesia is a collaborative platform for young people to create broad impact to make environmental issues more inclusive issue. We encourage young people to move in 3 directions, A, B, C, namely A, academia, B, business, and C, community. Our vision is to be a catalyst and connector for the youth movement on environmental issues in every school and campus throughout Indonesia. Our first step before creating this platform was for us to do some research first and map the condition of young people in Indonesia on environmental issues. We map into 3 groups of young people. Number 1 is young people who haven't and rarely exposed to environmental information, and they think that environmental issues are only for some groups. And number 2 is young people who have been exposed to information but are still confused about what to do if they want to take action. And number 3 is young people who already care about the environment but still want to learn more about environmental substance. After being grouped, we know what kind of approach we can take next. And these are our 3 programs, namely Research, Environmental Management System, and Green Academy. We strive to ensure that this program can take place on each campus in Indonesia, be it in the student organization or directly under the direction of the campus. Number 1 is research. We conduct and encourage research from various backgrounds, engineering, law, politics, and social environment. And number 2 is environmental management system. We carry out and encourage better environmental management on its campus in Indonesia. Currently, we are focusing on waste management, where waste is the most common problem in many campuses in Indonesia. So far, we have managed more than 1,000 kilograms of trash. In addition, we are also currently carrying out function as an incubator and accelerator for several environmental startups. We validate their ideas and try to connect them to the market and investors. And number 3 is the Green Academy, a place to discuss with many young people so that an environmental discourse will emerge in their interaction. Gather young people with the same passion on an issue in order to see environmental issue from various perspectives and bringing them together with experts in their fields so that they can gain knowledge directly is what is done. And here are campus that have collaborated with us. We collaborate with more than 30 campuses in Indonesia, namely the University of Indonesia in Depok, Pajajaran University in Bandung, Udayana University in Bali, Mula Warman University in Kalimantan, and other campuses. By collaborating, we come to understand what are the environmental problems in each campus from the perspective of students and some of the lecturers there. And here are the communities and NGOs that have collaborated with us. We have collaborated in partnership with more than 100 communities and NGOs from all over Indonesia. With collaboration, we come to understand what is the specific problems in each issue, and we spread our concern for the issue to the wider community. The issues include issues of the sea, forests, cities, renewable energy, and other environmental issues. And until now, information about Energi Karya Indonesia has also spread to 16 countries, starting from Malaysia, Philippines, Fiji, Korea, Pakistan, America, and other countries. This expansion of the scope aims to make young people in Indonesia more aware of conditions in other countries, and a good example can be benchmarking and implemented in Indonesia. And the following are some of the programs at the Green Academy. which because of this pandemic, we are intensifying online-based environment forum for knowledge transfer and communication between experts in their field and young people who want to study more. EnviroPods podcast that can be listened to be discussing a more specific issue. EnviroLife live Instagram with various communities and campuses. EnviroTalks, a forum for discussion and expressing opinion for young people from all regions in Indonesia. EnviroGuide, environmental curriculum that contains guidelines from creating a community environment before to campus. This is because the number of environmental communities is one aspect of the campus assessment, which is said to be a green campus. And EnviroClass, a workshop on the environment. And this is our social media in Instagram, energi.id, and LinkedIn, Energi Indonesia. And right now we are developing our website and application to gather more young people. We get into the materials today about the social entrepreneurships, a process consisting of the innovative use and combination resource to explore opportunities. Social entrepreneurs plays the roles of change agent in the social sector by adopting a mission to create and sustain social value, recognizing and relentlessly pursuing new opportunities to serve that mission, engaging in the process of continuous innovation, adaptation, and learning, acting boldly without being limited by resources currently in hand. And there are 6 fields or domains are natural settings for social entrepreneurship initiatives. Number 1 is welfare and health services. Number 2, education and training. Number 3, economic development. Number 4, disaster relief. Number 5, social justice and political change. And number 6 is environmental planning and management. And a social entrepreneur is someone who has decided to turn his or her entrepreneurial bent onto the social realm to undertake an initiative that will benefit the greater number of people. Risk-taking. Risk-taking is so essential in social entrepreneurships. It takes a special mindset to wake up one day and say they want to change things in this world. The risks become even greater if they have no money or don't have a post-social background. Curiosity. Social entrepreneurs must nurture a sense of curiosity about people and the problem they face. They seek to truly understand the needs and desires of the people they serve. Adaptability. Social entrepreneurs must remain open to any solution. This includes knowing when to pivot and change their strategies if their initial methods don't success. In this pandemic situation, adaptability is so important. And next is openness to collaboration. It's important to remember that social entrepreneurship is a team sport. Other people are willing to help. Social entrepreneurs need to stay open and attentive to potential partnership and collaboration opportunities. And persistence. Social entrepreneurs take on some of the most daunting challenges our society has to offer. This often create a recipe for early stage failures. And social entrepreneurs operate within the boundaries of 2 business strategies. Number 1 is non-profit with earned income strategies. Social enterprise performing hybrid social and commercial activity to achieve self-sufficiency. In this scenario, a social entrepreneur operates an organization that is both social and commercial. Revenues and profits generated are used only to further improve the delivery of social values. Number 2 is for-profit with mission-driven strategies. Social purpose business performing social and commercial activities simultaneously to achieve sustainability. In this scenario, a social entrepreneur operates an organization that is both social and commercial. The organization is financially independent and the founders or the investor can benefit from the personal monetary gain. intended impact and theory of change. In terms of practically, intended impact and theory of change do not seem to be that concrete. Indeed, they simply help the organization leaders see the operational field where they make their action. Intended impact and theory of change play an important role in turning the abstract operational strategies into concrete set of activities. Number one, intended impact. One of the characteristics that intended impact should have is being actionable. The visibly that non-profit attempt to achieve leads them to asking considerable questions. In the light of what it does, an actionable intended impact ties considerably the mission with the vision for social change. Also, it spells out the outcomes and provides enough control for them. For organizations to clarify their intended impact, they should ask the following question: who are our beneficiaries? What benefits do our programs create? How do we define success? What we want we do and what would make us obsolete? And theory of change. Theory of change by its term is supposed to put the intended impact into action. As a matter of fact, theory of change is expected to be a very coherent. In that sense, it should identify the needs of the selected category of beneficiaries and articulate the most significant powerful point to address those needs. For organizations to clarify their theory of change, they should ask the following question: what is the cause and effect logic that get us from our resource to impact? Where are the gaps or leaps of faith in this logic chain? What are the most important elements of our program's content and structure? Are there other ways in which we could achieve the desired outcomes? And what is the minimum length of time our beneficiaries need to achieve these outcomes? And this is about funding in a social enterprise. Convincing investors to invest in organizations that are driven by social mission has been confirmed to be a challenging task to do, especially for those social entrepreneurs who seek financing. It's mainly because of the fact that social entrepreneurs mostly combine genes of nonprofits and those of for-profits. Another reason why social entrepreneurs find it hard to attract enough modest funds is their unspecified position between being a real nonprofit and a real for-profit. And this spectrum highlights the major point that make most social enterprise problematic in their narrow sense. Accordingly, due to challenge that social enterprise face when attempting to raise money, one clear idea often crops up to facilitate attention and to make a solution. And there are two sources of capital. The first one is direct investors, individuals and institutions that invest money directly in social enterprises. And the second source of capital is intermediaries investors, shareholders that invest other people's money in social enterprise. And these are ways to scale social impact. Social entrepreneurs can rely on the 5 R's as a logical path: readiness. Social entrepreneurs are requested to have an objective evidence of success. This means the understanding of the definition innovation and knowing the critical element of the innovation. In other words, the innovation has to be ready to spread. Number two is receptivity. Sometimes social entrepreneurs try to spread their innovation in other places, but they are likely to face a sort of resistance. This latter is a result of a complex innovations. This must be avoided by social entrepreneurs. Yet, how do social entrepreneurs anticipate resistance? Social entrepreneurs should evade uncomfortable building innovation or any central coordination. They should often focus on the local needs that take them to the addressing of local demand. And number three is a resource. Social entrepreneurs should bear in mind that a plausible plan of resource is required within scaling strategies. Also, the notion of reducing costs and preserving effectiveness are two decisive terms to be taken into consideration. And number 4 is risk. Social entrepreneurs have to be aware that the implementation of an innovation could be in a correct way. Thus, it so mislead them from their intended mission. They do not limit themselves to only what they are supposed to do, but also to what they are not supposed to do. The risk must be clear for them. And number 5 is return. Serving people is an assessment task that should be done well. Providing high quality services is a determining point of social entrepreneurs' booming result. Okay, that's all from me. Feel free to discuss with me or Energi Karya Indonesia letter. You can contact with me in email, galangprakasayt@gmail.com, and let's collaborate with Energi Karya Indonesia. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, for the rundown. And I think it's very important that your organization is targeting environmental issues in Southeast Asia, given the sub-regions, very pressing environmental issues. And I also think it's important that these qualities of what makes a social entrepreneur that you mentioned, I think it's quite important, for, prospective social entrepreneurs to keep in mind these qualities that you mentioned. So thank you again. So finally, we will be having a short intervention from Dr. Faiz Shah from the Yunus Center at AIT. Dr. Shah, can you hear?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Christian. Well, it's been quite an interesting conversation I've been following it very closely for a number of reasons. One, because it's mostly very diverse in the experience that we are hearing from each other. And two, I noticed that everybody's got some interesting picks or hacks from their experience, and they're so well articulated in the presentations as points that one might consider if social enterprise is the goal. I'd like to just commend everyone for that wonderful encapsulation. And I also noticed that a lot of us have intersected with Professor Yunus, and that's a common theme of inspiration. I worked with him for a long time. I set up the Yunus Center. This is the first Yunus Center outside of Dhaka, anywhere in the world. And now we have 87 of them. So I'm particularly delighted at the way the social business movement has moved along. Hello? Yeah, I think I lost you for a few minutes.
I think we can hear now.
So as I was saying, I'm delighted. Yes, I can hear now, but I hope I wasn't lost during this. I was just saying that definition of social enterprise and social business is also in flux. Social enterprises are much more broadly defined and therefore can be interpreted in a number of ways. And we've just seen a very nice graphic by Mr. Galang where they situate the social enterprise in the middle of the for-profits and the non-profits. One thing that differentiates social business is that it doesn't lie between entity, which is a for-profit organization. It runs in a competitive milieu, in a competitive environment, and competes with regular businesses without seeking subsidies or market skewing mechanisms. So a social business, according to Professor Yunus, is actually a regular business, selling products, whether at the high end or the bottom of the pyramid at competitively priced, high quality, high value exchange. Well, the model that Yunus promotes is not a model that substitutes profits for social welfare or social good. It's bundled in the same thing. A social business, according to Professor Yunus, is a money-making enterprise that uses its profits for social good. Now, you might say this is very similar to what everybody else is saying, but there is a difference. This does not fall across a continuum. The reason we create social businesses or Yunus social businesses is that we want to pull the power of the market into development, which is now called enterprise-led development. And a social business simply differs in one element, in that the entrepreneurs choose by voluntary design to surrender a portion of the proceeds of the business so that those proceeds can be pulled into social development or businesses that produce social good. So it's not about how the money is made, it's about how the money is spent. So a social business entrepreneur chooses to make money, but then also chooses to give back some of that money, which in a completely capitalist situation would be completely unassailably the entrepreneurs. And nobody would say, hey, why aren't you sharing your money? It's your money. Here, the owners, the promoters, the entrepreneurs decide that we will make money, but this money, other than the profit that, other than the investment that we make, we will choose to either commit all of it or a bulk of it back to either promoting the business, adding value, expanding outreach, or bringing social impact. So that, I believe, is a little nuance that some of us perhaps don't always remind ourselves of. So I'd like to leave you with that thought, that a social business is a regular business, except the way it distributes its money is directed towards social enterprise. The second point I wanted to make as I close, because I think we're getting to our very final moments now, is that the vision of the future, particularly after COVID-19, is a vision of micro-entrepreneurial or microeconomic communities. The biggest impact we've seen from COVID is a total transformation of mobility paradigms. We cannot just get on a plane or a train or a bus and get off and somewhere else. Mobility is now not only a major impediment, it's also a great opportunity. So when I hear of the Powwater presentation about apps, when I hear about Energi Karya building capacities and so on, when I look at SDSN trying to build new ideas into social enterprises, it comes to my mind that we're already pretty well prepared for a world where massive mobility is no longer the requirement for successful business. Mobility can also be transferred to other models. And so just by giving that example, I'm trying to say is that this is a great time to innovate. This is a great time to build social businesses around the new emerging constraints, which for some are opportunities. And finally, every SDG is an opportunity for business. And that opportunity can be realized through social businesses. And at the SDG lab at AIT, that is exactly what we do. So if there's any other questions or if there's any other thoughts that you might wish to share, please feel free. My contact can be, I'm on the net, Google AIT, put my name in there, and you'll be able to reach out. The SDG lab would love to welcome ideas from you. Thank you, Christian, for getting me. Thank you, Carbon, for getting me. And I think I've learned a lot as well. Cheers.
Thank you very much for the the wrap up, and it's an honor to hear your remarks. And your insight really draws together the concepts of this webinar. So we greatly appreciate it. Since we're about nearing the end of the time, I think we'll just do a very short Q&A. I don't believe we have too many questions in the chat box, so I'll leave it to Carbon.
Okay. Hi, so thank you all for the wonderful and inspiring presentation and also the wrap up. We got many audience interested in social entrepreneurship and are considering starting their own. So we got 2 questions from the chat. The first one is that, is there any organization which supports the social entrepreneurs? If yes, what are required to get the support? And the second one is kind of related to the previous point we mentioned. So the COVID-19 makes us social distancing, and in the future, the service-based business will have to reduce face-to-face culture to customers. So the question is, what are the ideas or opinions of the speaker on new normal culture in service-based businesses? Thank you so much.
So I'm wondering if maybe Agnes or Mayra would like to take the first question.
Yes, definitely. So the first question was about having support for social entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely what SDSN Youth is all about. And I would say that one of the clearest way that we can support young people who are interested in social entrepreneurship is really by, first off, they can join our hub, and they can definitely reach out to us. So sdsnyouth.org, and then just send an email, and we'll be happy to show you exactly where to go to sign up for the hub, and we'll take it from there and be more than happy to have you on board with us. We actually support a lot of young people that really only come with an idea and they don't really know how to materialize that idea. So that's pretty much our specialty, I would say. And what was the other question?
So the other one is about this COVID-19 reduce face-to-face culture, and what does that mean for service-based businesses? Like, how are you impacted by that?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess for us, it doesn't necessarily impact our direct work, actually, because a lot of our work is already online based. Again, the hub, for example, is a virtual startup hub. However, what has been really cool for us to see is how our entrepreneurs that are members of our communities, how they have adapted and overcome a lot of the challenges. For example, Mayra actually mentioned in the presentation this Upcycle Africa, the startup that's based in Uganda, and how they now have, due to COVID-19, have transferred their trainings onto WhatsApp. So now the founder of Upcycle Africa is actually teaching the local youth how to use their techniques and build houses out of plastic bottles. He is actually teaching workshops on that through WhatsApp, which is really cool. And we have a lot of similar examples on that, but I could just give that brief one.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. And we got another question for our last speakers, Mr. Galang. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but the question is, how can we measure our social impact?
Sorry?
So I will repeat the question again. It's how
Yes.
can we measure the social impact?
Okay, how can we measure a social impact? Okay, thank you. What is the name, the question? Yeah.
I think it's Putra who.
Okay. Thank you, Puti, for the question. That's a great question. To measure an impact, Energi Karya Indonesia has usually identified 3 main ways, which is you can measure a social impact that be used alone or in a combination. Number 1 is monitoring, the continuous assessment of the progress of piece of work over time, which check that things are going to plan and enables adjustment to be made in a timely way. And number 2 is evaluation. Evaluation complement ongoing monitoring activities by providing more in-depth, objective assessment of the relevance, efficiency, and sustainability programs at a particular point of time. And number 3 is research, systematic investigative process employed to increase or revise current technique, product, or process knowledge by discovering new facts. And research divided into 2 general categories: basic research and applied research. Basic research is inquiry aimed at increasing scientific knowledge, and applied research is effort aimed at using basic research for solving problems or developing new process, product, or techniques. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think it really clears up the question. So we don't have anything at the YouTube end, and I will pass over to Christian.
Thank you so much, Carbon. So unless there are no further remarks from the speakers, I think this would be a good time to close. So, again, a huge thank you for, all the speakers, Agnes, Mayra, Jack, Galang, Alex, Dr. Shah, and, of course, a thanks to everyone that's tuned in. This has been really a fantastic session for so many reasons, covering a diverse range of information, perspectives, and yeah, so again, just a huge thank you. And to all the participants, we will be sending a follow-up email, so there will be a recording available, as well as some additional materials. And the video shall still be, up on YouTube, and we look forward to following up on the next webinar in the series. So thank you again, everyone, and I wish you a good evening or a good afternoon wherever you are. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. And everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
See you later.
See you.